This course is brought to you by Appy Pie as part of our Academy series.
In this video, we're going to be looking through Amazon's Kindle store to see some real-world examples of copywriting in action. So we're going to look at book titles, which are essentially headlines, and see, are they using the three elements that we've been talking about in this course, which are self-interest, news, and curiosity. So for this exercise, I'm just going to look at productivity books, such as How to Be More Productive, because I know there's a big market for that, and I'll be curious to see these titles. So I'm just going to ignore these sponsored posts and look at the most popular one. So the first one is Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. Now, I just know that this book is really popular because it's a cult classic. It's been around for a while. So I think its success is not determined by the quality of its headline. But for fun, let's just look through our three elements to see if this satisfies it. So the art of stress-free productivity implies some kind of self-benefit. Obviously, we want to live our lives stress-free and more productively. But it could be more powerful with the you, the art of how you can live more stress-free and be productive, something along those lines. So I think that part could be improved. The news, there is nothing newsworthy about this one, so it's not the brand new art of stress-free productivity. Now, it could be implied that there is a little news to this, like, oh, this is the art of stress-free productivity that no one's seen before. But that could be a little more clear if that's what they want with this title, this headline. And the last one is curiosity. And I would say that's probably where this headline is the strongest, because the art of stress-free productivity sounds awesome, and it makes me really curious. You know, I didn't know that was an art, being productive. I thought it was the exact opposite of an art. It was very linear, logical. So I'm curious, what exactly is the art of stress-free productivity? So let's look at the next one. And let's start with self-interest. So the productivity project, accomplishing more by managing your time, attention, and energy. Now, I think that's stronger for self-interest because you're going to accomplish more, that's very clear, and you're going to do it by managing your time, attention, and energy. Now, when it comes to news, the productivity project, accomplishing more by managing your time, attention, energy, they're not really using the news element here. There's no groundbreaking study or new method that hasn't been released before. It's kind of implied maybe the productivity project is something new that hasn't been around before. But if they wanted to specifically include news in their headline, they could work on that. And the last thing is curiosity. So the productivity project, accomplishing more by managing your time, attention, and energy. Now the productivity project has definitely sparked my curiosity. What is that? It sounds cool. I have no idea what it is. I'd like to find out more. And also, the attention is pretty interesting that they brought that up, because I know that's gaining a lot of momentum right now, where people are wondering, how can I manage my attention in this attention economy? So one thing I'd like to point out as I'm doing this is I'm not saying these are bad titles at all if they don't satisfy the three elements that we've been talking about. Obviously, these are some of the top-selling books in this category, but I do think it's a very helpful exercise to look through the three elements that we've been talking about inside of this course and see that even books that are very successful could use better headlines. They don't necessarily have the best headline, and they can be popular for a large number of reasons outside of the headline, like maybe the author's really famous or this book just stuck more than other books have. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to use the best possible headline for our projects, for our books that are publishing, for our emails, for the subject lines. So if there's any room for improvement, it's awesome if we can be aware of that and then make that improvement ourselves. Or another option is if you don't want to improve on a headline, but instead you see a really great headline, like for example, if we found a book title that just nails it, you might want to keep that for a swipe file or just a list of book headline titles that you really like so you can get inspiration when you're writing your own headlines in the future. So let's look at 2 more for this real world example video. The next one is the power of habit, why we do what we do in life and business. I'm sure many of you have read this book. It's a very popular book. But let's go through the 3 elements. Self-interest, why we do what we do in life. Now, it's not direct self-interest because it's not saying by reading this book, we're going to be able to make a shift in our habits, but it's very, very strongly implied. So by understanding why we do what we do in life, that's implying a strong self-interest. Once we know why, then we can change it. And because this whole book is about the power of habit, we know that it's about how we're going to be able to change our own habits and therefore change our lives. So I think it could be stronger, but it's pretty good at nailing the self-interest. The next one is news. And this one, I think actually does that pretty well because it says why we do what we do. This has a kind of feel to it like we've never known in the past why we do what we do, but now it's been figured out. Like science has figured that out. And although that could be made stronger in the headline, that's the immediate feeling that I got from it. So this is pretty interesting because it's not a science, it's kind of an art more than it is a science. But by reading this, I feel like it has that news element. And another thing is curiosity. This is definitely nailing the curiosity. Why we do what we do in life and business. Who doesn't want to know why we do what we do? So that's a very strong part of this book title. Now the next one is free to focus, a total productivity system to achieve more by doing less. So that's the self-interest piece right there. Achieve more by doing less. By reading this book, I'm going to be able to achieve more without having to do as much, which is a strong self-interest. That's great. I mean, it's really great they put that in the headline. And also free to focus. That's not as strong of self-interest as the achieve more by doing less, but that does imply a strong benefit that we're going to get if we read this book. The next up is news. Now this one has another thing where it's implied, like a total productivity system. This is probably a new system that hasn't been around before, but if they wanted to, they can make that stronger. They just by putting that in, a brand new total productivity system or something along those lines. And the last thing is curiosity. And I would say they also touch on that by a total productivity system. For me personally, that makes me very curious. What is their productivity system? Is it something that I'm already using, or is it some brand new system that's going to change the game for me? I'm curious. So that's it for this video. I hope this gave you a general idea and to help you think outside of the box. Because when we're going through examples and learning in this course, it's very black or white. Does it include self-interest? Does it include news? Does it include curiosity? And we can come up with examples that very obviously illustrate each of those 3 things. But when you're in the real world, it's not that black or white. Here on the Amazon Kindle store, I just looked up the most popular books on productivity. And as you can see, some of them have some of the 3 elements, but it's not necessarily that they either really have it, like it's pure self-interest, or they don't have it at all. Sometimes they have a little bit of self-interest, but they could add more if they wanted to. So I hope this inspires you to be creative as you come up with your own headlines, and feel free to pull from other headlines that you really, really like. If you see any book titles here that just sound awesome and they're relevant to what headline you're creating or writing, use these as ideas. Copywriters have been doing this for years. That's why the swipe file is so popular. They create lists of book titles or headlines that have worked really, really well in the past, so they can always use pieces of it in their new headlines when they're creating new products. So that's it for this video, and I look forward to seeing you inside of the next video.